his butt.
Wait a minute, Doc.
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet.
Hold up just a minute. This is Chase, and I am here with Derek Evans via the Subway satellite phone. Did you know that we sponsored by Subway?
No, but I'm sure that joke will take us just a foot further.
See what you did there. Only five.
That was bad. Don't put that in there.
No, it's gonna stay. It's got to. Subway's kind of trash, so we're not gonna go.
Plenty of inappropriate jokes came to mind.
Yeah. Well, we left those in our Brink episode. How do you think we did for Brink?
Hey, I had a great time with y'all.
Yeah, it was a fun watch. Definitely pulling back the nostalgia curtain on that one. But we're bringing you here today because I want to talk to you a little bit more about your directorial debut. We had a phone conversation not too long ago. I don't know if you remember this, but I was kind of fishing for some advice as someone who has directed before and kind of wants to get back in the chair, but doesn't really know where to begin. You had a line on that phone call where you said the reason you were successful was because you were dumb. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I said, how could I forget? I told you that I'm probably the world's bravest idiot.
Yeah, and I think about that line every day. This call was like, what, a month ago or something like that? And
I don't know.
I
was inebriated. I have no idea.
Oh, God. But I think that is a very interesting thing to talk about. I know a lot of people listening to this probably haven't jumped in the film world, and if they have, that's amazing, and, more power to them. But there's something very interesting about saying, hey, I was really stupid or really dumb, and that's what got me where I am. And I want to dive deeper into that. So let's trace it all the way back. So your first feature film, let's go back and let's talk about that. I want to kind of talk about the process, and I don't want to talk about the process in a way that most people talk about it, like when you watch these interviews where they go, this is how we filmed it, we had to do this overnight. I want to know about your thought process in the very, very beginning of this film.
Yeah, for sure. My first film was my first feature, The King of Bloody Fucking Britain. And not a lot of people know that. And, poor PR on my part. What's interesting about it, and for anybody listening right now, it's publicly available. If you are in Europe, you can find it on DVD. If you are in the US, you can find it on Amazon, Apple TV, etc. And if you want to watch it for free in 720p and make sure that my distributor gets some money, you can find it on Tubi.
You just redeemed yourself with the marketing.
Oh, yeah, there we go. It was my first film. Genuinely, that was the first one. So I didn't actually go for shorts before I started wanting to make my own movies. I went for a feature. Other than doing little films as a kid with my cousins on a Hi8 camera recorder. If those count, and maybe they do in some world, then it's not my first film. I had made plenty of films, but I did not go to school for filming per se. I actually went to school for acting. And I acted in some films, which is where I got some experience doing actual on-camera work with for a scripted narrative film.
There's so many great directors out there that didn't go to school for filmmaking, or just kind of picked it up.
I wish I had done something. Exactly. I wish I had done something related to it. Looking back, because I'm like, well, dang, I paid for school. I don't regret going to school for acting. I met some of my best friends. I met my now wife, and I don't regret it at all. That actually it laid a very strong foundation going to school for acting, and specifically for theater acting at Northern Kentucky University, and it's where I met Kyle Gaskin, who's on this podcast. It's where I met Andrew Weeman, who's also on this podcast. It was a good program that we were in for theater acting, and I think that it did push me because I would still I wouldn't call myself a great actor, but like I want to be, and I think that school gave me a foundation for storytelling, and that was important. While I was there, I learned screenwriting. I took a screenwriting class from Ken Jones. He was the head of the theater department at the time. And Ken Jones, he's not necessarily a household name, but he's an award-winning playwright and screenwriter. He wrote for Recess, Saturday morning cartoons. The kindergartners were based on his daughters, Ken Jones's, and at least so I've been told, and whatnot.
Maybe our next review down the road is a few episodes of Recess.
Oh, I'm there for it. Anytime we could call Ken, we can get Ken on here.
Yeah, that was,
And
you
and
heard it
so
here.
yeah, you heard it here, folks. But I got a taste for screenwriting from Ken Jones, and so I wrote in college. I started writing a script which I've never produced. I would love to one day. It needs a lot of work still, but it's called Dustland. 1950s. Follows some farmer kids from the 50s in New Mexico during what was a second Dust Bowl. Either way, I got that taste for filmmaking in school, and I knew I wanted to do filmmaking, but I was in school in Northern Kentucky, and I had plans to move to LA after I graduated college. It never happened. I actually ended up moving straight to Atlanta, Georgia, which I also do not regret at all. We moved here, me and my wife at the time, still girlfriend, but we moved here in late 2014. And in 2015, I signed with my first agent, Houghton Talent, here, and started working as a professional actor. I didn't book anything big until 2017, but before that, I was eager to be on set and work in general. So late 2014, early 2015, maybe it was mainly just late 2014. Now that I'm thinking about it, I started working as an extra on set, and I worked on lots of things. I met some of my best friends in Atlanta working as an extra on set. I worked on a show called Powers. We were on one of those Divergent series, who knows which one. I had done The Walking Dead. I had been an extra in
I feel like if you're an
Constantine.
actor in Atlanta, you've been on The Walking Dead at some point or another.
At some point, it gets us all.
I've met so many people that have been an extra on Walking Dead, which it makes sense in how many
Yeah.
extras they need. But,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which
You know,
season?
Oh, I couldn't tell you. You know what? No, I can. Season 5.
Oh, that was before it became shit, right?
Before it became a wild thing, yeah.
Yeah.
I am in now as an actual actor in a scene with Maggie kills me in season 11, but it took some years to get there. And all that leading up to say that, when I had signed with my first agent, it took 2 years to book my first TV show, which was Being Mary Jane. I ended up doing 8 episodes on that show. And before that, I was eager to be doing some actual, acting on a movie. And I've always wanted to make movies. I've always wanted to be a director since I was a kid, and I did make movies as a kid growing up. Little chin puppet movie I made called Chin Mania. Made a Magic Man origin story, which was, an origin story for the Magic Man, which Magic Man was a movie my older cousins had made where my cousin Josh would snap his fingers and things would appear in his hand, or his clothes would disappear or something. And I thought, how cool is that? They were just doing that simple, stop the camera, move something around, restart the camera, and then the practical in-camera effect of he snapped his fingers and something happened. And I thought that's great. And I made a little origin story, which was cheesy and embarrassing. God forbid anybody nowadays see it. And
one day when you become famous, that it'll be in your collector's edition, like box
it'll be
set.
perfect.
Yeah,
it'll be perfect. Yes. And none of it was scripted. We were just winging it all by the seat of our pants, filming on the little Hi8 camera. I had done some stop motion stuff, playing with some clay, and that was it. But I wanted to be a director. I've always wanted to. And so I thought, hey, nobody's put me in their films as an actual actor right now. Why don't we just talking with me and my group of extra friends, like, hey, let's get together and let's make a feature film. And I was like, I've got an idea. I've been inspired to write a script. I think it'll be something that we could film right now for like next to no money with just what we have here, and it'll be fun. And they're like, that sounds great. I was like, give me some time to finish up this script and we'll see what it's about. And so that was, me. I'm talking with my buddy Julio Liverpool, my buddy Jake Richens, my buddy Pedro Hoyos. And Pedro told me, he's like, hey, look, once you get the script going, there's a guy in town. He's won a couple of daytime Emmys, but, Emmys. And his name's Julio Barriga. I'll introduce you to him and we'll see what's up. So I started working on the script. And where I say that I was the bravest idiot, we all were, this entire ragtag group of people that made this film were just brave idiots, because what it ended up being was probably the biggest script I had ever written, and which the bar wasn't high. I'd only written 2 before that.
Right, but this is not spoiling it out there for anybody. But this is like what, an hour and 36-minute runtime for this.
It's
movie?
a full length feature.
Yeah. I mean, to
And the
go
first-
from nothing
yeah.
to that kind of level, because kind of gloss around it, but a lot of people write shorts or they write their first features only an hour 10. They
Sure.
don't really go that full distance, you know, because that is, you know, full length. That's what
Oh,
you're
yeah.
expecting. Now everyone's expecting
Yeah.
3 to 3.5 hours, which is getting ridiculous, but an hour and a half is a perfect horror movie.
It ended up being the biggest film I had ever written, coming in at 140 pages, and had 93 locations, 85 actors, 150 something props. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. If I had looked at that script now, knowing what I know now, I would never have made it. That's not me hyperbolizing, that's wisdom.
Yeah.
And what makes that kind of crazy is that I would never have made that film if I knew what I know now, and which is maybe a little embarrassing in some ways. I don't know. But I look back and I say, kid, you are fucking nuts. And I had plenty of people tell me that at the time. But guess what? I didn't want to hear that. I just wanted to say, well, I'll prove you wrong then. And if you believed in me, great, come along.
You talk about like what we know now. We're in our 30s now, so it's what we know now is we know like life and death. We know the day in, day out scrog of life. We know that we have to go to work, we have to make money, we have to do this, we have to have this like comfortable net around us. There's something about being dumb and unaware of all that kind of breaks you free of those chains.
And I was surrounded by a team of people that wanted to see it through to the end as well. And we didn't know how we were going to do it, just that we were going to do it. And so we started casting it so I finished the script in 2015. I was 23 years old at the time, I think, and over 10 years ago now, which is, that's insanity.
I know,
And
where time ago.
That's stupid. And so I finished the script and I took it to Julio Barriga. He was who my buddy Pedro had introduced me to. And I read him just a couple of pages of the script and he said, absolutely, I want to be a part of it. And the film would never have been made without Julio. I brought him on as a DP and as a co-director and as a co-producer. He was invaluable to the entire process. Julio Barriga brought on the cameras. He brought on some gear, some lights, and a tenacity to want to get it done. He helped break down the entire script, which was completely necessary. I mean, like I said, 93 locations, 85 actors, not including the extras. Including the extras, there are probably over 120.
I also want to talk. I want to like kind of round back because now I'm getting interested. Because let's talk about dumb for a second.
Sure.
You wrote a movie based in Britain, and you're going to film it in Atlanta, and pulled it off somehow. Like that is
to some, but to others maybe not. But
somebody's out there eagle eyeing it, but those people can go to hell.
I love them to death.
They're the ones giving you the 1-star review.
But I hope they're watching it on Amazon and they're at least giving me $1. If they're watching it on Tubi and shitting, dang, they got me.
Now they can go to hell. I mean, it's what an accomplishment. And I don't mean it as like in a negative way. It's just thinking on that level of you really went in with no bounds. At somebody who's 23. And did you ever have imposter syndrome while doing this?
Not while doing it, no. I think I was so blinded by wanting to prove I could. Thought we were going to really make something. And we did make it. And it took a long time, and we'll get into that, I'm sure, because it was not an overnight process by any means. But we were able to do it by the end and to do that film. That is the testament to everybody who was a part of that. I carried a big burden on the hats that I wore, but everybody did,
Yeah.
I mean, I led the film, so I was a lead actor in it because I wanted to write a film to put myself in. Yeah, it's selfish in a way, but to get going in this career, you have to have something. You'll not get booked in something unless you have something. So there's a catch-22 for everything about the film industry. And a lot of this industry is in some turmoil and changing right now, and things are, who knows what things are going to look like. But I know one thing's for sure is that catch will always be there, you know, that you have to have a resume to get in, and you have to be in to build the resume. It's a weird thing.
Is there a correlation to that kid that made the origin story to the Magic Man?
There's a lot of that kid still there, of just sort of pushing into this, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to figure it out space. And I don't know how I'll figure it out. I just know that I have the ability to. You know, other people have done it, I can do it too. And that was the kind of impetus for me and for everybody who came on to help build this film. And once again, all set in a foreign country. How are we going to do this? So what we started by doing was saying, hey, well, let's film like a little proof of concept video. So we cast the main characters, I think in June of 2015, possibly. And we filmed a little proof of concept video, just a small thing to do a little Indiegogo fundraiser for the film. And we raised on Indiegogo about $3,500. So not much at all. But we thought, holy cow, this is great. People believe in us. And I think 1,000 of that was from my uncle Brian and Aunt Diane, and then 1,000 of that was from a buddy RC, and so the other 1,500 were from random people, and that was great, you know. And maybe some of them were people who worked on the film with us too.
That's still belief, man. Belief comes. It doesn't matter if it's from an aunt or someone 14,000 miles away. Belief is belief, and it can generate so much.
It's crazy. And so we started casting the characters for the film. And as we started casting all these, we filmed the proof of concept, we made that, and we raised that funding. We knew it was going to cost a little bit more for the film, but Julio and I were willing to put up our own money to do it. And we started casting the rest of the characters for the film. We set a date. I remember that. That was important for us. We said, okay, well, what's the first day of filming? And I think originally we had set it for August, and we ended up moving it, but we eventually landed on September, either the 20th or September 21st. It was one or the other. I think it might have been the 21st as the first day of filming. And we broke it all down. We scheduled it all out, Julio and myself. We eventually brought on an AD after the fact, Mito, who was invaluable to the process as well. But Julio and I broke down the entire schedule. I have to say, this was before AI. This was before I knew what that software existed that would make this easier even. I broke down the schedules for the actors with Julio. And to be honest, the schedules might have been something I spearheaded mainly myself. But just to say, hey, how am I bringing in these people? Because we ended up getting so many submissions for the film. It was like 600 to 1,000 people that submitted to be in the film. And we ended up casting people from New York, from LA, from North Carolina, Mississippi, Cincinnati, I think Florida as well, South Carolina. So from all over.
Was this a film that everybody got paid for?
And so no. So nobody made money to work on the film. We had to pay for some travel and some stipends here and there, but everybody came and volunteered to be on the film, from the crew to the cast. And that is something that, like, I'd never be able to pull that off again. One, I wouldn't feel comfortable asking anybody to ever do that again. I wouldn't feel comfortable making everyone do that again. You know, not that we made anybody do anything. People wanted to be a part of it. I remember people telling me, they're like, I saw the title for this and I thought, what is that? And I clicked on it and I thought, I need to be a part of that film. And I can remember my villain, who was super important to me, to have Mike Schooner, who plays Clarence. His first and last name are the same. And Mr. Clarence is played by Mike Schooner. I remember seeing him in a play in Cincinnati, which is the big city where I'm actually from Northern Kentucky, but I grew up near Cincinnati, so I claim that as home. And I saw Mike Schooner in a play.
Right?
Yeah.
You and Kyle, same place.
Exactly. And I saw Mike Schooner in a play, and I thought, holy cow, that guy is incredible. And I hit up the director of the play because he was a friend of mine. His name's Kevin Crowley. Kevin's Cincinnati famous. Even more than that, he was in Second City with Steve Carell and et cetera. He's a funny guy, a talented actor and director. And Kevin, I was like, Kevin, yo, what is this guy, I need this guy's info. Can you please forward it to me? Because I want to send him a script. And he sent it to me. And I didn't even have this script finished when I approached Mike. I was nervous as hell. I sent him 110 pages of what eventually became the 140-page script.
That's your next dumb move, too, is pitching a script without being finished.
There was no ending.
Yeah.
I remember saying, there's going to be a big old blah, blah, blah. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it and for the ending. But I told him, but look, dude, this is a 110 page. I was like, hey, man, I know you don't know me, but I know Kevin. And I wrote this role for you in a film, and I have the script attached. It's not finished. There's a big old blah, blah, blah at the end. And I just wanted to get it to you to see if maybe you could figure it out. We're planning to film it in Atlanta. And let me know what you think. And Mike emailed me back, and he was like, yeah, let's do it, man. And I was like, hell yeah. I felt so empowered once Mike came on board, to be honest. That was a win for me. I reached out to an actor I had no contact with, and he wanted to do it. That gave me a lot of confidence, to be honest, that maybe we could get more people on board.
Right. And that fearless thing we talk about, like just reaching out with an unfinished script and just nothing but air and opportunity.
Yeah. You know, my buddy Jordan has told me something that has always stuck with me it's pure wisdom. Let them tell you no. Yeah. And that's an important thing to hold on to when you're being a brave idiot, is to let them tell you no, you know. And pitch your heart out. Yeah. See what they say.
We're talking film here, but that's an everyday life thing. If you're working in sales out there, or you are just selling yourself for a new job, or selling yourself on a date, it is the same concept. Is sometimes we get too caught up in our own mind about what we know can go wrong. Sometimes you just got to clear it, be an idiot, and let it go and just sell yourself. And if you're able to do that and knock down those barriers, you can accomplish anything.
Absolutely.
And so many people out there accomplish so many great things.
Oh yeah,
without any knowledge of any of this. You got to get started. You got to get started somewhere. You do have the education. Being an actor still kind of gets you in that world, but at the same time, it's still that just go for broke kind of attitude that a lot of people are missing. And as we get older, it feels like, at least for me, that attitude feels like it's dwindling by the second because of the fear of what could happen.
Yeah. Well, I remember the medicine to swallow for that is that you set a date. You say, that's the date we're getting it done. And we did. We set the 21st, or like I said, it was either the 20th or the 21st, but I'm more likely to believe it's the 21st of September, 2015. And that was going to be our first day of filming. We had to lock every location that we could down. And I say that we could because we didn't have a lot of them locked down by the time we started filming. 93 of them. We doubled up as many as we possibly could, where one house served as 3 different locations or something like that.
Right.
Our warehouse that we filmed in had different rooms that looked completely different. And so it served as like 3 or 4 different places within the film. And that kind of thing helps. That's producing, is figuring out how to get it done. And we set the date, we cast the film, and you know what's crazy is that by the time we ended up, let's see here, by the time we started filming that first day, the only thing that went wrong that day is we showed up to our warehouse location, and Clay, I forget his last name, he owned the place, and he was just not going to be there that day, but his assistant knew that we were supposed to be there, and he was there. And we go to get in, and there was a gate locking the warehouse. And we go to get his assistant. He's like, well, I know you're supposed to be here, so let me go get the bolt cutters. And he got a bolt cutter because he didn't have the key for the lock. And he cut one of the bolts on it. And I saved that bolt. I have it in a frame here at the house. That bolt that we cut through was the only thing that went wrong that day. We shot and finished everything we needed to. Like I said, I had everything storyboarded out. We shot for multiple scenes that took place at that location. We shot the outside exterior warehouse stuff, and we shot a solid 8 hours, and then we were done. And that gave Julio and I and the team such utter confidence to complete that film. It gave us such wind in our sails, breath in our lungs, that we did it. We pulled it off, because I was such a nervous wreck leading up to that first day. Maybe this is going back to what you're saying. Did you doubt yourself or something? Leading up to that first day, it did grow in intensity, a kind of welling up inside me that, is this going to work? There were people flying in, coming in from other places, from other parts of the world. Are we going to pull this off? And that first day went so well that we were like, we can do it. And I'm glad that was our first day, because something horrible went wrong every single day of that shoot afterwards. And we had a 48-day shoot on this film. I was waiting tables at the time and took 2 months off to be able to do this. And my lovely wife supported us during that time, because what money I had saved up was going straight into this movie. And so
We
something
talk
major
about
was
belief,
going.
man.
Oh, yeah.
Right there. There's more belief.
And something major went wrong every single day. I remember the second day, an actor called me near midnight, either emailed me or called me near midnight, to say that they weren't going to show up the next day because they had booked an extras gig on a show in town. And I thought, hey, I know you're not getting money for this, but you've got a substantial scene with 2 pages of dialogue. Like, I do think, personally speaking, actor to actor, this would be great for your reel. And they're like, I know, but this TV show is a really big TV show, and I just can't pass up the opportunity. And I'm like, okay, I understand. Good luck. And I had to find a new actor to replace somebody with 2 pages of dialogue at midnight to be on, and we were supposed to be on set at 7 a.m. the next day. And for the entirety of that filming schedule, Julia and I both only got 4 hours or less of sleep every single night. We shot, 5 to 6 days a week, 48 days. And then we did 12 days of pickups over the 2 years following that. But by the end of that 48 days, we had shot a feature film with a few things left to pick up, very small things, but we made it. We made it to the end, and we shot the film for around $7,000. That $7,000 went into.
So impressive, though.
It's
Like,
crazy.
$7,000 didn't get you a lot now. I mean, especially now, like fast forward
Oh.
10 years, like, even in 2014, 2015, that would,
Yeah.
that's like
Well,
shoestring
I
budget.
did the math. El Mariachi was shot for $7,000 in the 90s, but considering inflation, it would be more than what we shot The King for. And it was a lot. It was a lot to do. There was a lot that went wrong. I'm not saying I did everything perfectly either. I'd be a fool to say that. But I do think that we pulled off something that not a lot of people do. Not that they can't. I think many people can. But it's difficult. And it is difficult to rally people up to show up for no money. At the time, things economically weren't quite like they are. It's probably gotten tougher to do something like that. But
I mean, even recently as COVID.
Yeah.
It's been hard because a lot of people, I don't want to say a lot of people have left dreams to die, because I think that's a little harsh and melodramatic. But it just feels more and more that, like, a lot of people put them on the back burner for so long, and then you wake up one day because you were thinking about the logical things your whole life, and then you wake up and 10, 15 years is gone, and those dreams are cold as ice, and that's what inspired me about being dumb. And it's like, how do I go back to being dumb again? Because when we're full of piss and vinegar, when we're in our early 20s, we think we can we're Superman. And
we're arrogant.
We're just arrogant.
You know what's crazy, though? I think, and I hope this isn't my last, I hope The King is not my last film. I've been working on some shorts, and I'm working on a couple of features too at the moment, just in, concept development and script development stages. But I hope that The King's not my last. But I've heard that a lot of people, their greatest achievements happen in their 20s. Our founding fathers ripping tea off of boats, they were in their 20s. And I think that maybe that little bit of arrogance that they got, the piss and vinegar, maybe.
I want to share the story with you and probably everyone out there. I'm nowhere near as accomplished as you. I got like a late start into trying to do anything film related without growing up in it, other than I liked movies. I liked watching them. I liked discovering new films. But when I got in my 20s, I was like, man, I really want to be in this industry. I want to be a screenwriter, was kind of my first thought. Like, I could do that. I've written my whole life. I've published some poems and published a couple of books. So I was like, I got it. I can do it. I had a really good friend. It's sad we kind of lost touch over time, but just life and moving cities. But she lived in Nashville, and she was an actress, and really good one. And she met these two guys on this call, and they were doing a horror film. You know, small budget. I think each actor was getting paid $150 for it. I didn't meet them, but they had somebody drop out on them last minute. And they're like, well, we're looking for an actor to be in this film. And I thought to myself, I was like, this scares the shit out of me. I should do it. Especially because I wanted to do something like this my entire life. My brother was a stage actor and a good one. I never acted before. In my head, I'm thinking I can read some dialogue for a little bit and play an extra or do this, that, and the other and just get the experience. It's low paying. You know, like I said, we're getting paid $150 for, 2 months worth of shooting. It was about as long as The King. I make it out there the first day for the table read, and they drop this huge script on me, and it's all highlighted. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And they're like, oh, yeah, you're the lead. And I'm like, have you lost your mind? But, I wasn't going to walk away now. I'd already, put myself out there. And every day I was so anxious until the camera lights came on. And it was the best time I ever had. 13-hour days.
Wow.
I was going to work at 6 in the morning, getting off at 3, and then immediately driving halfway across Nashville to go shoot until about 11 o'clock at night, sometimes even midnight, and then doing it all over again the next day. And I loved every bit of it. We got about a quarter of the way, and they called me one day, and they're like, yeah, the land's being taken up now, so we're going to have to hold off on shooting for a little bit, but we'll call you when it's ready to pick up. I was like, okay, cool. And we shot literally all around it. You know how everything's shot out of order. And I don't know if anybody listening to this knows that, films are not shot in chronological order most of the time. I'm sure that
most of the time. There's some exceptions.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Maybe a one location you can do it, but there was no ending and no beginning. And next thing I know, he calls me about a month later. And he's like, hey, the film's going to debut on Amazon tomorrow. And I'm like,
a month later?
Yeah, I was like, what movie? I was like, we didn't shoot a movie, but whoever invested in it wanted it done and wanted it out there, and I guess they weren't going to get the land back. I know it's not what they envisioned. I don't want to speak for the guys because they're incredible people and very hard workers, but it didn't come out like we expected, but it's there. And I think to myself all the time, I'm like, most people haven't done that. Most people can't say that. Most people can't look at their face on an IMDb page. And I was able to do that, even if that's it. And in right now, the way it's going, it could. But I still hold on to, I did it. And just to think about, in your perspective, only maybe 0.001% of people get to direct multiple films. And you got to do it. And I'm talking feature. I'm not talking about grab their own camera and do it. I'm talking about an actual film that's out there, that's profitable, that is people are watching.
I don't know. Not quite profitable yet, but
we're getting there.
With the DVD sales, it's actually getting close to being completely in the black.
Yeah.
Which is unreal that a first-time feature filmmaker gets their movie to distribution. And not the glorious theatrical release that everybody would hope for, but distribution nonetheless, it is. And
then you got a little bit of a theatrical release with Barely Breathing, which if Neil's listening to this, he better be.
yeah,
it's
Barely Breathing is played in some wonderful festivals.
Yeah,
wonderful festivals.
And I didn't get to make it that night because I was out of town, but at Plaza Theater, think about that history. That theater's been around since the 20s. There's got to be a surrealism to that. That's got to be a I made it moment, even if this is it. And at the end of the day, nothing else happens. It's you made it. And it's pretty incredible to think about.
Yeah. And I can remember because we did a screening for The King for cast and crew in 2019 is when I actually finished making that film. So it was in January 26th of 2019. We screened at the Plaza for a opening night. Leading up to that, those 4 years to get to that point It was a long 4 years. When we finished making that movie, filming it in 2015, we'd filmed on it for the 2 months. I began editing the film, and it was a lot to put together. It was a feature. You've got the script and you know what order it's going in. So you've got the direction for it. But now you got to put it together. We had worked extensively to try and pull off how we were going to make it feel like London. We wanted lots of brick and dark wood, mahogany feels. And for the cars, it was a big problem shooting in the U.S. for getting London cars and whatnot.
There's so much
There's so many
logistical
cars.
nightmares. Yeah, it's like
It's ridiculous, dude. But we planned to just film everything in reverse. So we had costumes with name tags printed backwards. The makeup, if there was bruising, would be done on the opposite side of the face. And so that when everything was flipped horizontally in post, it looked like they were driving on the left side, and the steering wheels were on the right side of the car, and that the costumes and everything. The costumes were made to be symmetrical for everybody, except for Benny. All of Benny's shirts were handmade, spray painted. So each of those were done backwards so that his would look correct. And there was meticulous planning on Julio and I's part to pull that off. We have it in our journal. We'd have every single, down to the scene, which shots needed to be reversed, because sometimes we were filming something else that day that wasn't meant to be reversed and couldn't be even sometimes. And so we would say, okay, well, this shot has to be in reverse, but that shot can't be. And, what's the line look like now that we can't break, and et cetera, et cetera. And there was a lot to keep track of there. Some things were successful. Some things we got into post and realized, oh, well, you fucked that up. But we were able to wade through it. In editing, though, it was a 4-year process. It took a really long time to get that film together. And I remember I was working on it in my free time as much as I could while waiting tables. I went back to waiting tables, and in 2016, I stopped waiting tables and went to valeting cars. And I remember at the beginning of 2017, before the film was done, I finally booked my first TV show, that being Mary Jane show, and I did the 8 episodes, and that gave me the money that I needed to say, I'm not waiting tables anymore. I'm going to sit and I'm going to push for acting, and I'm going to work on this film. And that is what I did. And I booked some other TV shows that year, and it kept me going, and I've been able to keep it going since then. But I was able to take that leap and say, I don't have to wait right now. I spent 60 to 80 hours a week editing on that movie in 2017. And I ended up having to teach myself VFX to finish that film. I brought on Tito Alberto Matos Jr. He's worked on projects like The Expendables, The Walking Dead, many other great things. And Tito came on board to help me with a few heavy-hitting VFX shots. There's a lot of gunshots and blood in the film. And
there's a
Tito
lovely
helped
BTS video still on YouTube that people
Oh,
can
no
look
kidding.
up. Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Caught it.
Well,
It was a really good one.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Well, Tito came on to help with a couple of the VFX, and he did about 20, 21 shots in the film. But in total, there were around, in the original cut of this film, mind you, there were around 700 VFX shots in the film. That Tito did 20, I did the 680, give or take, after that. And that was, once again, stepping foot and saying, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to figure it out. Because if we had paid your average rate of, let's just say a low ball rate of $50 per shot at 700 shots, what does that even come to math wise? Like 700, I don't even know, like $35,000, something like that. Like
Yeah.
that blew our budget out of the water. We just shot the thing for only 7, which went to food, costumes, wardrobe, some travel stuff, car rentals when they were needed, etc. And we couldn't afford to do that. So had to do it ourselves. And I was editing the film and wanted it done a specific way, so it came down to me. And maybe there would have been somebody who would have helped me, but I didn't know who they were. Tito helped me as much as he could, but there's an extent that somebody can help you. And we got the film put together and finalized and had the screening in 2019, and it was just such a big reward to see it up there on the screen at the Plaza. I remember they were about to film Zombieland 2 at the time, and the cast and crew for Zombieland was there watching Zombieland just before our film. So Woody Harrelson actually came walking out in the middle of this plaza filled with people dressed to the nines there to watch the King of Bloody fucking. And I remember him walking through, just looking at everybody. He must have been high. He just walked, looking at everybody like, "What is going on out here?" And he left with everybody. I think he gave my buddy Mac some Twinkies before he left, genuinely. And then he was gone.
What a guy!
What a guy! And that's why I always tell people Woody Harrelson was at the screening premiere. But anyway, I found it so rewarding, and to see it up there. After I saw it up there, I went back and re-edited some stuff and even did more VFX shots. When we first started submitting to festivals, the cut was 2 hours long of the film. I think the total runtime was 2 hours 5 with the creds. And we got turned down from every single festival we submitted to, every single one, which is not a very big vote of confidence at all. No. You're like, dang, not one?
All of your British accents suck. Like,
yeah, they're maybe not the greatest all across the board, but I tell you what, we're having some fun. And I think that was kind of a little frustrating at the time, but we did get some feedback from one festival, and they're like, hey, we love this, but it's just too long. And we're like, dang, okay. So I went back and I recut the film to the hour and 36 or whatever it is now. And I don't regret doing that. I hope nobody ever sees the 2 hour cut and only ever watches this hour and a half long bit. And it took another 2 years for us to get distribution for the film. You know, going into making a movie now, I would approach things much, much differently. But that was a film school for me. It genuinely was. You always hear, like, if you want to be a filmmaker, just get out there and do it. It's true. Get out there and do it. I now work professionally as a VFX artist and professionally as an editor, and I've been hired to direct things because of having done that film. And that's crazy and cool. And it always is something fun to have a scene of that on my reel. When people watch the reel, they're like, your range is crazy. And I'm like, yeah. And you might not get the chance to play those roles that you really want to because people just don't see you in it immediately. And so, okay, well, make something with yourself doing that and show them. We have to be spoon-fed a little bit sometimes.
What an amazing story, man. Like, it's like, congratulations. Like, I know I'm kind of late on the train, but what a magnificent accomplishment just getting it done. And I'm sure, like, everyone listening to this podcast is probably out there saying the same thing. I don't want to ask you, like, advice to filmmakers because I hate that. You know, I think it's needed in some aspects, but I feel like there's plenty of videos out there for that. But I want to know, when you make a film, what part of it has your heart?
You know, I think that's a wonderful question that probably I could easily overcomplicate an answer for. But I think it really is important that when you're making a film, your heart has to be in it at every step of the way. And you have to really want it, because getting it done, Spike Lee said this once, it's a miracle that any film gets done. He's not wrong. It requires so many moving parts and so many people. And it's easy to make mistakes. You should welcome them, their lessons, but it will happen. Like I said, I think it's just important that you have your heart on every part of it. And it's not easy to do every single day, but you got to find out how. You got to make that happen, because it's easy for it to fall apart, and it's easy for it to sit on the shelf, and it's easy for 10, 15 years to pass you by and it's not done.
Well said. Derek, before we get out of here, let the folks know what you got going on and where they can find this film. Again, for the third time.
Yeah, once again, hey, you all have already heard where you can find the film. Find it or not. I would love if you watched it somewhere other than Tubi, but you don't have to. I love Tubi. God bless them. And
at least they're watching it.
Yeah, you know what? I'll take it from anywhere if you got to. I don't blame you. But if you would rather not watch it in 720p, that's all I'm saying. Other than that, Barely Breathing has finished its festival circuit, which we talked about in the Brink podcast a little bit. Barely Breathing's won 13-something awards, including Audience Choice at Austin Film Festival, which was just still over the moon on that in 2023. And I think that hopefully soon we'll be releasing it to the public. We're still working on the details of how we want to approach that and where we want to actually have the film land for forever and whatnot. It'd be great if you all wanted to watch something that's a different speed, for sure, than The King, but also a riot and a blast. And what I have next is something I'm working on with a co-writer of mine, Eric Whitten, set in the late 1960s, moving through time to the early 2000s. We're following the story of Anthony Battaglia, who invented a special comb that revolutionized the hair industry. And it's a wild, wild ride. Anthony Battaglia, his son Stevie Battaglia, is a buddy of mine. He does hair. He's done hair for me on several shows in town. And it's a wild, rags to riches to rags story, and just an honest story of how it's on us to swallow our generational pain. I don't know if that makes sense to a lot of people listening right now, but it's a story that we're still shaping up, and I can't wait to try and bring to the screen, but it's what we're hoping to bring to the screen next. And yeah.
Amazing, man. So I can't wait to see what you got coming down the pipe, and I know you're going to continue to do great things. Derek, thank you so much for being on another episode. Thanks for taking the time to show us Brink. He's about to be a dad, everybody. So I want everyone
Less than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
How crazy.
The Derek Evans on Instagram. I know that one. Send him a message. In the meantime, good luck in the future. We hope to have you back on the show at some point down the road. We'll look forward to that. I hope everyone has a good rest of their day.